The poor man's 3 sons grew up day by day, until the youngest, Martin, became a man, and let them go and find work. He asked them to bring back a suit of clothes after a year, and so the 3 brothers set out together. On their way they came across a big tree. They said goodbye to each other at a fork in the road. They each went their own way. Martin came to a forest. He met a toad covered in oil. He asked Martin if he would work for him. All he had to do was saw and chop wood, and put him to bed at night, and in the morning he'd take him out of bed. Martin thought about it. It's work anywhere, so he decided to stay and work for the toad, and so he did what the toad's boss told him to do. Every morning he would carry him to the pond. Then he went to chop wood. At night, he put the toad back to bed. A year went by. The toad complimented Martin on his work, and let him go and pick out his favorite dress. Then Martin met his 2 brothers at the fork in the road. When they found out he was working for the toad, they couldn't help but laugh. But the moment Martin showed off his clothes, the brothers became a little jealous. Back home, the 3 brothers stayed for a while. They were urged by their father to find work again. This time they had to bring wine home. They said goodbye under the tree and went their separate ways. Martin was still working as a carpenter for Toad. This year's workload was double that of last year, but hard-working Martin got the job done. Toad sent him to the cellar to find an empty bottle and fill it with his favorite wine, and so Martin filled the bottle and left. The 3 brothers met under a tree. The 2 brothers saw the bottle in Martin's hand. They thought he would disappoint his father. Martin took out the biggest barrel he could find and filled it. The older brothers were teasing him. Suddenly, his face changed, because he couldn't pour enough wine from his bottle. The family was even more surprised when they tasted the wine. They'd never tasted anything so good. At that moment, his father said they were old enough to get married, so he sent the 3 brothers out to find wives. This time the toad told Martin, "This year we'll cut 3 times as much wood as last year," and he had to stack the wood in a pile. Martin said no problem. He did everything Boss Toad asked him to do years ago. Then the toad told Martin to put himself on the pile. Then he threw him a broom and burned the pile. Martin did as he was strongly urged, and it was just as Toad's boss had said. All the toads in the forest jumped at the sight of fire. He kept sweeping with the help of his broom, and so the wood burned into the night. The toads in the forest disappeared along with the owner. Martin fell asleep with grief. Everything was changing around him. He opened his eyes and saw there was a beautiful princess standing beside his bed. It turned out that the princess needed a decent young man who would do whatever she asked, so that the curse on her could be lifted, so that the people of the palace could be freed. Martin's heart was pounding with excitement. They embraced. They rode home in a beautiful carriage. Their 2 brothers looked at them with jealousy. He gave each brother 3 bags of gold coins. Then Martin married the princess and became king.